What do Colombian ex-soldiers, the United Arab Emirates, and the genocide in Sudan have in common? At first glance, absolutely nothing. But according to a shocking investigation by Human Rights Watch, hundreds of Colombian mercenaries have been recruited through the UAE and sent thousands of kilometers away to fight alongside one of the world's most notorious militias. A militia accused of ethnic cleansing, mass murder, systematic violence against women, and acts that the United Nations says bear the hallmarks of genocide. So how did a conflict in Sudan become linked to military bases in Abu Dhabi, and why is one of the wealthiest countries in the world allegedly backing a force accused of some of the worst atrocities of the 21st century? This is the hidden story of the UAE, Colombian mercenaries, and Sudan's brutal civil war. Since 2023, Sudan has been engulfed in a devastating civil war. The first shots of the current Sudanese civil war were fired in Khartoum, a power struggle between the Sudanese armed forces, the SAF, under Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, under Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo Musa, also known as Hemeti, that erupted after the 2021 coup overrode the transition to civilian rule. Deep disagreements over the integration of the RSF into the National Army and who would command the merged forces caused the RSF to make the first strike, starting the current Sudanese civil war. The RSF were originally formed from the infamous Janjaweed militias that terrorized Darfur in the early 2000s. The RSF has been repeatedly accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Entire towns have been destroyed, thousands of civilians have been killed, and millions have fled their homes. And in Darfur, reports of ethnic massacres have drawn comparisons to some of the darkest chapters in modern history. But as the war dragged on, evidence began emerging that the RSF was receiving help from outside Sudan. A lot of help. Human Rights Watch now claims that hundreds of Colombian military veterans were recruited by a security company based in Abu Dhabi. The company is called Global Security Services Group, or GSSG. According to the investigation, these men weren't simply guarding facilities or providing security. Many were allegedly transported through military installations in the UAE before ending up on the battlefield in Sudan. Former contractors told investigators that they trained at facilities in Abu Dhabi. Some claimed their passports were never stamped. Others reported receiving military instructions from Emirati personnel. In other words, this wasn't a normal private security operation. It looked a lot more like a covert military deployment. And that's where the story becomes even darker. In late 2025, the RSF captured Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. What followed shocked even seasoned observers of the conflict. The United Nations documented widespread killings, mass assaults, torture, and atrocities so severe that officials said they displayed the characteristics of genocide. Human Rights Watch says evidence places Colombian fighters in Fasher during the assault. Residents who survived the massacre reported seeing foreign fighters among RSF units. They described white soldiers wearing helmets, body armor, and military equipment matching images and videos obtained by investigators. Were these Colombians directly involved in the atrocities? We don't know, but it argues that they were present and fighting alongside the force responsible. One testimony may be even more disturbing. A Colombian contractor told investigators that he helped train RSF recruits near Nyala, one of the militia's main strongholds. According to his account, many of those recruits were children. Other reports from Colombian media reached similar conclusions. If true, foreign contractors may have been helping train child soldiers for a militia already accused of widespread war crimes. The United Arab Emirates strongly denies providing military support to the RSF. Officials insist their involvement in Sudan is purely humanitarian, but Human Rights Watch argues that activities described in the report occurred on Emirati territory, including at military bases. The organization also points out that the private security firms operating in the UAE are required to coordinate with state authorities. Investigators interviewed contractors, company employees, Sudanese witnesses, and former Colombian officers. They also analyzed official documents, corporate records, geolocation data, photographs, and videos. Their conclusion? The UAE is playing a far larger role in Sudan's war than it publicly admits. This raises a critical question. Why would the UAE become involved in a brutal conflict thousands of kilometers away? There appear to be three major reasons. The first is power. Sudan occupies a strategic position between the Middle East and Africa. Influence in Sudan means influence over trade routes, political alliances, and access to the African continent. Some analysts argue that Sudan has become a battleground in the regional rivalry between the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The UAE is widely accused of backing the RSF. Saudi Arabia is generally seen as closer to Sudan's official government forces. In effect, Sudan may have become the site of a proxy war. The second reason is agriculture. Sudan possesses some of the most fertile farmland in Africa. Thanks to the Nile and other river systems, enormous areas can be cultivated. Both Saudi Arabia and the UAE have invested heavily in Sudanese farmland for Gulf states that import much of their food. Controlling agricultural production abroad is a matter of national security. And Sudan is one of the most valuable pieces on that chessboard. But the third reason may be the most important. Gold. Lots of it. The RSF controls many of Sudan's gold-producing regions, and according to numerous researchers, much of that gold eventually finds its way to the UAE. Experts estimate that Dubai had become one of the world's largest gold trading hubs. Sudanese gold is reportedly flown directly into the Emirates, where it enters international markets. In return, critics argue, the RSF gains access to money, weapons, and international connections. The relationship is mutually beneficial and incredibly lucrative. Trade figures show massive quantities of gold flowing into the UAE from Sudan and neighboring countries throughout the conflict. For the RSF, gold finances the war. For the UAE, gold strengthens its position as a global trading center. Sudan's civil war is often portrayed as a domestic conflict, a struggle between rival generals for control of a fractured country. But the deeper you look, the more international the story becomes. Weapons cross borders, money crosses borders, and now, according to Human Rights Watch, even fighters cross borders, from Bogota to Abu Dhabi, from Abu Dhabi to Darfur. The investigation paints a picture of a conflict sustained not only by local actors, but by powerful foreign interests pursuing influence, resources, and profit. The UAE continues to deny military involvement. The RSF continues to deny many allegations of atrocities. But as more evidence emerges, the question grows harder to ignore. If foreign governments, companies, and mercenaries are helping fuel Sudan's war? Who is really responsible for the bloodshed? And how much longer can the world look away?